What, pray tell, are we up to today? Well, as you can plainly see from the background there, Finley is still here because I record in batches, and he is just so cozy. He loves the light tent. This cat, I have never met a cat this food-driven or this interested in being warm. I am recording this in the middle of July. It is warm in this apartment, and that's with the AC running. He goes to sleep in the kitchen when dinner is being made. He likes to curl up in front of the oven, closed oven, but he likes to curl up in front of the oven because it's warm. In the summer, this cat loves being toasty. I don't get it. But he's always been that way. And that's why he loves the light tent, because it gets kind of toasty in the light tent. Anyway, as for what we're actually doing today, well, I have a trio of Legion slash Legends slash core class Megatrons that I wanted to take a look at, because I recently got these two, and I recently gained a new appreciation for this one. So I want to talk about them all, because I never made a video on them. And that's kind of what this channel's about, right? So I'm going to try and go a little quickly through this. I don't know how well it's going to go, but we'll try, because when I try to do multiple figures at once, usually nobody cares and it takes me forever, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, we will start left to right. I'm assuming this is release order. I mean, I know this is obviously the most recent one, but I think the Cybertron Legends Megatron came out before the Dark of the Moon Legion Megatron. I could be wrong, but this is the order I'm doing it in. If nothing else, it's in the order that the media came out in, I think. So we'll just do that. So yeah, starting with Cybertron Megatron. It's Cybertron Megatron. Like, there's all the details here. It looks really good, and I'm glad they chose his good mode and not that silly jet mode, which realistically, if this was to do the jet mode, all it would need to do is have like an extra hinge in this strut here so that you could swing it around back here, and like that would be it. But I'm glad they went with the car. And it looks really good. I do think it could do with just a little bit more paint towards the back here, because like looking at this section, it's just all gray. But I feel like your eye is drawn up here anyway. Like, this has some really nice colors on it, like that shiny turquoise and the shiny blue for the window section, the orange, that really nice deep metallic purple. I love that purple. It looks good, and again, the molding is all there. They even have a little tiny Cyber Planet key molded spot back there, and like the little engines. It looks really good. It could just do with a little more paint, and who knows, maybe if I'm feeling feisty, I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but if I'm feeling up to it, maybe one day I'll actually take a paintbrush to this guy. I don't know. But for now, this looks really good. This is a really cool looking vehicle mode that has all the right details on it. It just could use a little bit more paint. And yeah, it's fun, it's neat, and it's actually bigger than I thought it was going to be. Because this is an older Legends class toy, I thought it was going to be like, you know, this big. But no, it's sizable. Like, looking at it next to Core Megatron, it's actually got a much bigger footprint than Core Megatron. Granted, Core Megatron is like double the height because of the turret on top, but still, this is a much bigger vehicle mode than I was expecting. And it looks really cool. I always appreciated the style of this vehicle mode, and I'm very glad that they did this. It could just, like I said, use some more paint. As for Dark of the Moon Megatron, this is neat because I love how it's like this kind of sort of shrunken down and super deformed, almost in proportions, version of Dark of the Moon Megatron's truck mode. Like, it's still got the riveting and other kind of Mad Max slapped on panel detailing, and it's great and all, but like, it's also kind of cute because this needs to be like double the length, the trailer section. It's just so squished. It almost looks like a little penny racer style vehicle. The only thing that's disappointing about the vehicle mode is it could do with more paint. I mean, I think it's great that they painted in all of the windows and also these gas cans on the side. And of course the tanker thing on the back, but that's an accessory that pops off. So I don't know if I count that, but I just wish they had done a little bit more paint. Like, you get this gray in the front, but that's a separate piece. That's actually plastic. So they did do a little bit. Let's see if we can zoom in. That Mac on the front has actually been painted. So that is something. And it's hard to see, but you can just make out this tiny bit of like kind of brownish weathering just above the wheel wells. So they did put some more paint on this vehicle mode, and that's great. I think it's great that they did that. I just wish it had a little bit more. Maybe, like, you know, there's a little bit of that weathering here too. Maybe if the weathering was a little bit more pronounced, maybe in a couple other spots, but for what it is, I mean, you know, it's a small Legends, whatever toy, so it's fine. Oh, and the smokestacks, duh. Forgot to point out they painted the smokestacks. So yeah, it's not devoid of paint. It's, you know, can do with a little bit more, kind of like this guy. And also, kind of like this guy. This guy is the G2 version of is it Kingdom Core class Megatron or Legacy Core class? I can't remember at this point, but this guy is, like I said, I have a newfound appreciation for him. It's a fun little toy, though, I gotta say. It basically follows the Siege/Earthrise look from Megatron, right down to like the feet sticking out of the back, and the big chunk that becomes a backpack. But the transformation on this guy is pretty cool, and I love how they managed to get the turret rotation in there. And you also can raise the barrel, though it doesn't look quite right. But in my mind, I view this as more of like a mobile artillery platform than a tank. So I think that makes it work a little bit better. But it is the G2 version, so he's in the just absolutely toxic green and purple color scheme with a little bit of those orange accents, and that is wonderful. I, at some point, want to get the Reaper label set for this guy, though, because they add more of that really horrible, and by horrible I mean wonderful, orange along the side and in a few other places. But for now, this is pretty good. It's a little bit messy, you know, but it's a core class figure. Like, you've got thighs on the back just chilling. The robot fists on the back also just chilling. And it does look pretty messy. Also, I mean, okay, the messiness does not bother me at all because it's a core class figure. It's designed to be something fun and simple. That is fine. The thing that bugs me about this guy is this. I don't mind them turning the Megatron alt mode, like classic G1 Megatron alt mode, into an accessory, let alone an accessory for Megatron to hold himself. That doesn't bother me. I'm not bothered by the small amount of waffling on the side. I'm not bothered by the fact that it makes the tank turret look a little bit weird because you've got this nice solid fusion cannon going up the center, and then it just kind of tapers off into this little pistol, which is silly. None of that bothers me. What bothers me is the fact that they've made this green. I'm sure it's a molding thing. I know it's got to be a molding thing, but it just bums me out because if this was in purple, it would work so much better with all of this. And I'm sure there's like some, you know, 3D printed thing or maybe a non-F kit or something that addresses that. I might look into that later, but this is the thing that bums me out about this guy. But like, other than that, like, rotates the turret on this little core class figure. That's great. It doesn't have wheels, but it doesn't really need them. Also, I think there are like gap fillers they make for the treads. I might look into that too. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. But that is all of them. And let's just get them kind of lined up so we can do our size comparisons. Because these guys are, you know, they're Legends/Legion class figures, so they are relatively tiny. So awkward. Okay. There is Artfire and Rotor Storm, and you can already tell these guys are small. And Spamus and Burnout and Ovaprime. And yeah, they're small. They're clearly smaller than a deluxe. We get some of these out of the way here. We can just focus on the deluxe for a second. The deluxe in vehicle mode, I should say, because Rotorstorm is a deluxe. Gotta, pay him his due. Megatron's, again, his footprint is, or Cybertron Legion, Cybertron Legends Megatron. The footprint is actually the size of a deluxe. It's clearly not a deluxe figure, but like I said, this is a much bigger vehicle mode than I was expecting out of this guy. Dark of the Moon Megatron is more in line with what I was thinking. I mean, he's still chunky and not it's not a Micromaster or anything like that, but this is a little bit more in line with what I was thinking. And then, of course, Core Class Megatron is Core Class Megatron. So that is all of them. But because we have a little green Megatron tank, I felt we should bring in another little green Megatron tank. And that is Universe Legends? I don't know. This one. And this is more in line with what I was thinking he was going to be. I thought he was going to be more like this kind of simplistic and small, but he is not. And that's very cool. And there's how he measures up with Dark of the Moon Megatron, and how he measures up with Core Class Megatron. So yeah, that is how they all break down in size, but of course we've got to do one more tank, and that is the Duck Tank. Now, before I launch into all of these relatively straightforward and simple, but all very clever in their own ways, transformations, just want to say, if you like this video or any of the other videos I've done and you want to support the channel, I do have a Patreon, which you can find a link for in the description. I only have a single $1 tier. That's the only option. That $1 a month gets you early access to new videos, in addition to just supporting the channel. Aside from that, if you want to support the channel non-monetarily, you can always do the typical YouTube thing of comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Or if you want to do things in a different manner, there is a different link in the description for a Discord server for Show Z, which is an overseas website that sells a lot of Masterpiece, knockoff, and third-party stuff. I've used them for several years. They're great. Great customer service, really good prices, usually free shipping to the US. It's a great site. And if you use that link to join their Discord server, then I get 50 cents in store credit, which, not much, but the more people do it, the more it adds up, and that can eventually lead to me being able to use that to go towards other figures that I can cover on the channel. So with that out of the way, it is time to transform all of these, and I'm going to go in reverse order for these just because. So I'm going to start with Core Megatron. We're going to pop the little gun out of the barrel. We're going to pop the legs off of the tread mass in the front, and those actually, they hook over this, so you want to kind of pull out like that. And I'm just going to swing it down to give me room to move this leg too, so pop that and swing it down. And now with the room we can untab this section tabs in right in there, extend all of this, swing it up, and this now will tab into the inside of what becomes the leg. And that is really cool. The reason that's really cool is because as you untab this and swing it out, this strut ends up filling in the inside of the leg. That is really neat. And now we're going to rotate the waist. Another awesome feature on this guy. Waist swivel, yay! And now we can pull up and out on this piece just to get it kind of out of the way. I'm going to separate this section. You can see the fusion cannon, there's this flat end here. That is the side that's attached to the forearms. So you actually want to unpeg, this is the part that pegs into the fusion cannon. It is attached on this side. So you want to split this apart. Before you split that apart, the arms are actually tabbed into this little purple platform down here. So you want to pull up to untab them. Then once they're untabbed, you can split this. With this split, you rotate the shoulder sections around on this hinge. So you rotate those around and bring them to the front, and they will kind of tab into these little slots on either side here. You can see there's the tab, there's the slot, so those tab in. Then bring the arms out to do this. This arm, you rotate 180 degrees, and that gives you the elbow. For this arm, you actually don't rotate the arm, you rotate the wrist. This panel is attached to the fist, and that rotates around 180 degrees to keep the fusion cannon on the outside. Then the fusion cannon rotates down. And that gives us our Megatron. And then lastly, you just kind of want to take this and angle it up and over those shoulders, push it down, and it will kind of peg in down here. It's a couple of different things happen. Basically, these hinges tuck into here, and these tabs kind of sit in here. So that down and pegged in, and there we have core G2 Megatron in his robot mode. And one other thing I want to do is take the pistol, and he can hold the pistol, which is fine, and it doesn't really bother me, especially not for this one. But I still prefer to do the classic G1 thing where you just peg it into one of these ports on the back. I do the right one, and that gives him the kind of over-the-shoulder gun barrel look from the G1 design, which doesn't really fit with the G2 Megatron, but I don't care. So there's his robot mode. Now for Dark of the Moon Megatron, I want to pop off the oil tank, and this uses a 3mm clip, and that just clips on there. So unclip this, I'm going to split it apart, and then flip out these guns on either half. So those flip out, and this also moves for some reason. I like to tuck it back, but you don't really have to. And yeah, that's it for these. We'll deal with this a little bit more later. But for now, these can go off to the side. Now, this guy's transformation is really cool. The legs in particular, I think, are really neat and clever and simple, really. You take the smokestack section, pull back, and it untabs from here, and this entire back section flips down, and that forms feet. And now this section, there's the ball joint sections up here, the ball joints, or not ball joints, hinge sections down here that all kind of move as you straighten this out. And there's also this section here that moves, so that will bring the waist section up, bring the hips down, brings the knees down, and that gives him his legs. So then you split these and then rotate 180 degrees just below the knee to give him his legs proper, and that is just really clever. I really like how that works. Now for the upper body, it's pretty similar to the Voyager size one. You just unpeg the arms. This bit, this little grill, you want to kind of pull down a little bit to give you a little bit more room to work. And now pull out the arm, which is a little bit fighting me a little bit. I mean, I'm not worried about breaking it. I just don't want to pop the ball joint off. But wiggle that out, bring it down, and then this bit, you've got a ball joint, but you also have a little hinge back there. You want to bring that hinge down, and I really need to tighten that ball joint. That's too loose. So that is an arm. Other arm is the exact same story. Just wiggle it out and bring it down on both that ball joint and strut, and then bring that down. And there you've got the other arm. And then you take the truck grill and bring it down. And on this one, when I got it, oh boy, why is there red on this? And I think must be residue from the floor polish I was using, but I don't know why it's red. It's disconcerting. Anyway, I had to tighten this because it was really loose, but this just comes down and pushes in, and that gives him his chest grill. Yeah, that has to be... Hang on a sec. That has to be residue from the floor polish that's in there. So that is on me. I'm just hoping that's just residue and not actually plastic being eaten alive or something. Not alive, you know what I mean. I guess we'll find out. If it breaks, it breaks. It's on me. But anyway, there is Dark of the Moon Megatron, and he has these bits that are his guns. You got the little pegs there that can peg into his fists, and I'm just going to do this for now, but I will go over some other things that I do later. Just peg those into his fists to give him his guns, and it looks terrible, and I hate it, and it's why I don't really like to display him like this, because it makes it look like he has these really weird, spindly arms. So don't really read as guns that are attached to his arms or that he's holding. It reads more like those are his arms. And I don't much appreciate that. And finally, Cybertron Megatron. This is cool because it's a Legends scale figure, but it transforms pretty much exactly like the original toy, which I never had Megatron, but I did have Galvatron. And now this, you want to take these little spoiler bits and fold them back. Just like that. I want to unpeg the legs from this bit back here. I want to be careful because those are very tiny tabs. They're not like in danger of breaking, but if you don't pop these out, you could break them. I've seen some of these listed on eBay that, where the tab's broken, and that's not great. Now, kind of straighten the legs out a little bit and fold the pelvis section down. Then fold the legs down, rotate the knee, and you've got the lower body all done. That is really cool. And now up here, another thing, you've got tiny pegs and ports. You want to be careful, but you want to unpeg these little pods from the what will become the arms. And now you can just move these back, but that kind of flexes against all of this, and I don't really like doing it. So what I generally do is I actually push this section forward, because that actually seems to get things through a little bit easier. So I push that forward in order to get these out of the way. And then these just sit along the back. I wish there was a place for these to peg in, and I wish they could go out a little further for reasons I'll get into later. But for what they do, for what they are, they work fine. And now I'm going to fold this section down a little bit so we can split the front here. That'll become the arms. And this comes out, and it kind of tabs into place. Put these little nubs in there, get worn down a lot, and this one's no exception. So I do things a little differently, which I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to take the head and flip it around and push it through. It'll kind of need to be forced through a bit, but thing is, when I got this guy, I was transforming him like this and leaving the head like that, but the problem is when you do that, the legs, the pelvis, can't go in all the way. And that means that this can't roll and things don't sit right. And I feel like it's designed, because you saw there is space for the head up there when you push this all the way through. Once that's pushed through and these are together, there is 100% space for that head to fit. So I think that is the intended way to transform it. You just kind of have to push plastic past other plastic a little bit, which isn't great, but I think it's fine. So anyway, push that through, fold that around. It does not peg or otherwise clip in place, and that sucks, but it is what it is. And now these bits just fold around and they'll reveal the fists, and then you can kind of twist these down and give him his arms properly. And here you can kind of see what I was talking about with these bits not really holding anymore. So I find if I bring them out past the torso just a little bit, it doesn't really break the sculpt, and it just kind of works a little better. It also gives you more outward motion. But yeah, that's what I do for the shoulders to kind of make sure that they don't sag. And that is Cybertron Legends Megatron, and he looks like his larger Cybertron figure. Now the problem with this guy is his balance, because he's got these big pods on his back. Even though he's got these big feet and heels, part of the problem is he can't straighten his legs out. Because of the way that this is designed, you've got this bit that kind of whacks into this, and I feel like there has to have been a way for them to do this differently, but they didn't. So he can't straighten his leg out, and that really affects his balance. So the main ways I've gotten him to stand are to basically just have him sit and use his back pods as like a little kickstand, which works, technically. I just got knocked all out of whack. It does work like that, but it's not the best look. So what I've found that actually works okay is if you spread his legs more, that actually gives him a better balance. It doesn't look the best, but it looks better than him just squatting. So if you just spread the legs open a little more than may seem normal, he'll balance pretty okay. I do think I need to tighten up this knee, though. I did already, but I need to do it some more. But anyway, there we've got Dark of the Moon Megatron, Cybertron Megatron, and G2 Legacy Core Megatron, all in their robot modes, and there we go. Really wish that this balanced better. And yeah, they're cool. I like these guys a lot. They all do different things really interestingly. I love the transformation on all of them has, like, they each have their own little clever steps, and I really appreciate that. Now, Cybertron Megatron, he looks the part. He looks like Cybertron Megatron. A lot of the right colors are here. Pardon me. He could do with a little bit more in the legs and the shins, but, you know, for what it is, it's fine. The thing that's kind of disappointing about this guy is the articulation. Now you can see, zoom in close enough, you can see he does have a pretty darn good head sculpt that evokes the look of Cybertron Megatron. Pardon me while I drink some water. And I like that they painted his face silver. And it looks good. Now, like I said, the problem with this guy is the articulation. Oh, also I love the little hot pink thing right there. So the head can look up and down, and that's it. Can't turn, which it's fine. Because of the transformation, that's understandable. The arms cannot rotate. Like you can, because of the because of the ball joint here, you can kind of move the arms forward and backward a little, but that's it. They can go out like this, and if you use this joint, they can go out like that, so that's something. You get a bicep rotation, basically, and that's it. That is it for the arms. And the other thing that annoys me with this is you've got this gap here. I don't mind the gap. What I mind is the fact that it's on the outside of the arm, because when this guy's transformed, these bits that, you know, like the gap is on the underside, which I understand. You want to keep the vehicle mode clean, but like the gap would be under this. You wouldn't see it. There's literally no reason to have the gap on the outside of the bicep. So I don't really understand why they had to do it that way. It just does not make any sense to me. And you can see that, like, there's this little tiny wheel molded there. Like, it's not an actual rolly wheel, but like that's supposed to be the bottom of the vehicle mode. But I just don't understand why they did it that way when they could have just had the gap there rather than there. And then you wouldn't have this big hollowness like on the outside of the arm. I just don't get that. Anyway, these also move. They don't have the number of joints as the same number of joints as the big figure, which makes sense, but you can rotate those out of the way. No waist articulation outside of doing this, which I guess possibly could be handy for posing if you're doing like leaning forward poses. Maybe it would help with balance. Got ball joints in the hips, so they can go forward to pretty much 90. So back out here. Can go back only that far because of the big plank back there, but if it wasn't back there, they could go back to 90. Can go out past 90. You don't really get any thigh swivel, but because the knees are on ball joints, you get what amounts to thigh swivel there. And the knee also gives you a less than 90-degree bend, but it does bend. Technically, you do get ankle tilts because of the transformation, but they tilt outward. They don't tilt inward. So that's not going to be super useful. So yeah, I really, really wish that they allowed you to straighten the knees out on this guy. Because I feel like he should be able to stand a little bit better than he does. Yes, he has the junk in the back, but he's got big enough feet. It just annoys me that he doesn't... Yeah. That just irritates me. There. Just stay like that. Dark of the Moon Megatron. Like I said, I don't like these guns. I think they look ridiculous and make it look like he has enormous long arms, so I don't use them like that. But the detailing on this guy is pretty good. Again, I need to tighten this ball joint, but I appreciate the fact that the gray from the Mack truck kind of goes into the shoulders a bit. There is some nice just molded detail all along here. And of course, you've got the truck grill for the torso. There's the face, which we'll look at in a minute. There's the weird skeletal abs that he's got going there, and some nice detailing in the legs. And there is some decent paint on this guy in robot mode, like to make the feet more noticeable. You've got the fingers painted, and of course the face. So yeah, I think the paint that they used on this guy, pretty solid. Oh, also you get some nice detail that's on the outside of the legs now, because this was pegged together for the truck mugs that were rotated like that. So I think that's cool. I really do like this guy's leg transformation. It's really cool. Now looking at the head, it is Dark of the Moon Megatron. And I like this version specifically because there's one that comes with like a bigger trailer that's supposed to be like a battle playset thing that can also clip onto his back. And while I think that's cool, I really didn't like the deco of the Megatron figure. Like his face just had like all spark blue on it, which looked weird. This one, they painted in the gray, and they even did like a little dot on his kind of misshapen side of the head for the eye. And that's really cool. And like the sculpt is there, it's slightly asymmetrical. It's a good looking head, especially at the size. Now for articulation, once again, the head does not turn, but it can move up and down for some reason. I don't really understand why, because to transform it, you want the head like this. You don't really want to lean it back for transformation. It won't work. So I don't get it. But got ball jointed shoulders, so you can go around and out a bit, but then you can use the transformation joint to go out further. So that's pretty decent. You can also do some slight butterfly motion there. You've got the hinge, or not hinge, the rotational joint there that you can use as an elbow. You've got the ball joint that you can use as an elbow. So you got like a double elbow effect going. And if you wanted to, you could use this as a pseudo bicep swivel. It really depends on how you pose the arms, though. You do not get anything at the waist. I mean, you can lean back, but that doesn't really count in my mind. So really nothing at the waist. The hips can go forward past 90. Let's zoom out again. Go back past 90, can go out only about that far, but considering the size, I think that's fine. You get a tiny bit of what could count as thigh swivel, but in addition to the 90-degree knee bend, you also get a little bit of a rotation below the knee because of the transformations. So you don't get much in the way of thigh swivel, but like if you bend the knee, you can rotate the foot. So it's something. Normally, I don't really like knee swivels, and I generally don't anyway, but for something this size, I think it's fine. Now, the problem I have with these guns is, like, first of all, I don't like the, I just don't like the way they peg on. They look really silly. I also wish that you could do something with this clip here, because what you can do, and they're molded to do this, you can peg this back together, and when you bring the guns together, they actually peg together. Like you can see, they're designed to peg together. And this looks a little bit more like a big Dark of the Moon style fusion cannon. And I feel like this, because of the clip, would be perfect to have like clip onto his arm. But you can't do that. There's no clip for it to clip onto, or post or whatever for it to clip onto on the arm. You just can't do it. You can kind of thread it around his hand, but that doesn't really hold super well. And I just don't understand. Like, I feel like there's really no reason for there to not be something on the side here to clip it on. Or like, since this swings for some reason, there could have been like a peg or something for it to peg onto. I just feel like this could have been a thing, and I think that would have been cool, but it's not. So what I do instead is I take one gun and have him hold it underslung. So I just peg it into the bottom of the hand like that. And then I bring in the other gun and peg that on and peg them together. So now it's like he has one big gun or possibly one big gun hand. And that just makes more sense to me than the, giant Slenderman arms. So that's how I do that. And now, Legacy Core Megatron, his look is, pretty much the same. You get some new detail, though, like the little vents in the midsection. I really like the detailing, actually. I like that they painted the midsection in silver and did the buttons in orange. And this whole chest section was not visible in the tank mode, so I like that they brought a little bit of that camo in, too. I do think the shoulders could benefit from a little bit of that purple camo as well. But, it's core class. The proportion and shape is very similar to Megatron. It's very similar to the Siege mold, too, especially this big chunk on the back. That doesn't fold up like the Siege one, but that's fine. But the articulation on this guy is interesting. You kind of have to work with it in some places, but I found if you transform things a little bit, you can get surprisingly dynamic. But real quick before we jump into that, Cybertron Megatron fell over. Again, before we jump into that head is very Megatron. This is a better... It's sad that the core Megatron has a better Megatron head sculpt, even G2, than the G2 repaint version of Earthrise Megatron. That just depresses me, but it's a really nice Megatron head, and I like that he's got kind of a... Like, he's got the silver helmet, but the face itself is more of a gray or white color, which I think works really well. And those little beady orange, well, beady because he's tiny, but those little orange eyes also stand out pretty nicely. Now for articulation, the head can swivel left and right. It can go 180 degrees. I don't think you want to do this for the transformation. It kind of fits. Oh, then he's hugging Megatron with his tail now. Okay. I don't think you want to do it for transformation because I think then this panel would press up against the face and head crest and possibly damage the paint, but it's fine. This is core class. The shoulders are on ball joints, so you can go out and down and forward, and you can't really go backwards. I'm struggling with this a little bit because I tightened this joint the other day, so it's still a bit solid. The thing that stinks about this joint, though, is because of the squareness of the shoulders, you can't really go out a little bit, and then, well, I guess you can. I don't know, it's just, okay, that's what it is. It's this shape, kind of, you can't really twist it from here because it knocks into things, so if you do that, then that gives you the clearance you need, but you kind of have to work with it. Similarly, he's got a ball-jointed elbow, so you've got a 90-degree bend, and it kind of functions as an elbow swivel. As you can see, this keeps popping out. I don't really know why. This side doesn't have that problem. Maybe it's just the way I have things set up. This arm has the same articulation in the shoulder and the elbow. Additionally, you can rotate the fusion cannon if you want. And because of the transformation, you have a wrist swivel, but it only swivels outward, but still, it's wrist swivel. And now, for the rest of them, you actually get a waist swivel, which is really cool. I like that. You got ball-jointed hips, so you can go forward about 90, back not quite 90 because of all the junk back there, but still pretty respectable. Get this out of the way, you can, let's see, get that out of the way. Okay, you can go 90 if you get the backpack out of the way. Because it's a ball joint, you get what can amount to a thigh swivel, which is nice. I always like it when the ball joints give you that. But the knees themselves are also ball joints, so you can twist that to also get, if functionally a thigh swivel. And the knees bend to 90. So pretty decent posability on this guy. But what I really like about this guy is I realized the other night, I posted a photo on Instagram, but like you can actually get pretty dynamic with him if you detransform things a little bit. Like if you pop the backpack up and raise it a bit, you can have him actually look up and down, or look down at least. So like what I was doing was like bring the hips back a bit, bringing the backpack up to make him look down, and then purposely popping these out a little bit to give him more of like a shoulder splay, and then using the added space from the backpack being back there and these kind of being out a bit to bring the shoulders back just a touch. And then you get this much more kind of imposing, dynamic looking standing pose for a surprisingly simple core class figure. I just think that's really cool. I like that a lot. This is what made me renew my appreciation for this figure, because at one point I had this guy listed on eBay and then changed my mind because it was like the amount of money that I was gonna have to potentially list this thing for it to actually sell was like ridiculous. And I'm glad I kept him, because now that I've figured out the secret to doing a little bit more with his articulation, he's actually a lot of fun to mess with. So that is the last of our Megatrons in robot mode. So let us bother the cat and do one last round of size comparisons. I'm just gonna shore this guy up again for now. Just tuck all that stuff, and you can see kind of how it's less dynamic. Anyway, zoom back out and bring this up. I think I'm going to have to stop recording after this because my voice is not doing well. All right, there are our 3 tiny Megatrons, and we'll bring in Arcfire and Rotor Storm and Samus and Ova Prime. Hi, honey. Hi, yes, hello. Don't jump up here, please. So you can see how they all scale. I mean, they're, Legends, Legions, core class, so of course they're going to be tiny. Also, I realized I forgot to transform the other Megatron, so I'm doing that right now off camera. Which is fine, because it takes like 2 seconds. Astrid? Astrid, please. Do we really have to be doing this right now? Astrid, hey. Come on, honey. Come here. Come on. There you go. Curl up on the lap. Your brother has the tent. Yes. Here are the smaller figures. And let's get these out of the way so we can bring in Burnout. I'm doing this one-handed because I've got to keep Astrid from jumping back inside the tent again. It's like plate spinning, but with cats. Anyway, here they are with Burnout. So you can see that, again, they're small. That's their whole deal. They are small Megatrons. And Burnout out of there. And bring in the smaller Megatron. So there they all are with universe, whatever size class this is, Megatron. And, next to him, they look huge. Particularly Dark of the Moon Megatron. He is a lot taller than the others. Still, though, this really fun Megatron. And lastly, here are the it's the car and tanker and tank with the duck tank. So that does it for the 3 tiny Megatrons, and of the 3, I gotta say, I think core class Legacy G2 Megatron is my favorite. Oh. His tail keeps flicking things. I thought it would have been Cybertron Legends Megatron, but his weird balancing problems are so frustrating. And like you can kind of work around it, I found, if you straighten out his legs like you normally would, but then push these further in, which changes the center of gravity a bit and makes it a little bit easier for him to stand up. But the problem is these bits are now flexing out. And I'm sure these are kind of wiggly plastic, so I don't think that that's going to damage them, but I still don't like doing it. And I just really, really wish that that was not how things had to go down with this guy. And I really need to adjust that knee. It keeps wanting to fall over. Okay, there we go. Dark of the Moon Megatron. He is cool. I really wish they did better stuff with the fusion cannon. The rest of him is fine. I think the transformation is neat. The detailing is good. The paint's pretty decent for the size. The clip is right there. I don't understand why they couldn't have put something for it to clip on. Maybe there is something and I'm just not aware of it. I don't know. But I really, really wish that if there is something like that, I could figure it out, because it just seems ridiculous. Like, why have it pegged together like that if you can't make it into an arm cannon? I don't know. Core Megatron. I love the deco. I love the articulation, especially after figuring out the little tricks. The sculpt is really nice. The detailing is great. The transformation is probably the least interesting of the three, but I really like how you're left with a rotating tank turret when you're in tank mode. And I also like that the fusion cannon just stays there. It doesn't actually go anywhere. But he definitely could do with some extra stuff. Like, I do kind of want to get gap fillers back here, especially since I decided to keep this guy. And also, I really, really wish that this wasn't in green. But like I said, I could probably source something for that, or even paint it myself. I don't know. But they're all in their own way good Megatrons. They just have, they each have their own limitations in different ways, for different reasons. But I like them all for different reasons, and I'm glad I got them. Just definitely going to need to do some joint tightening on them all. Oh no. Careful, Finley. I think he is out cold. But that is going to do it for all of these Megatrons. What do you think of any and or all of them in any of the forms that they may have come in? Because I know there's a Galvatron version of this guy, like Cybertron Galvatron. There's the version of this guy that comes with the little, like, bigger tanker thing that can become like a wing pack. And then there's the regular siege coloration version of like the gray and black of this guy. Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and say goodnight to Finley. Good night, Finley. Good night. Have a good sleep. Gonna touch your beans. Touching your beans. Why, he is out cold.